Poor boy in the restaurant. Can't pay. Little did he know the waiter was an angel in his life. Ethan had been saving up for 3 months, nickels, dimes, and a few crumpled bills he collected from recycling cans in the mornings before school. Today was his mother's 52nd birthday, and he had promised himself he would do something special for her. "Please, I'd like the cheapest dish you have," whispered the 11-year-old boy to the waiter who approached his corner table. Jason watched the skinny kid with messy curls and a t-shirt 3 sizes too big. The boy opened a plastic bag and began counting coins on the dark wooden table, stacking them into little piles. "It's $23.40, Ethan said, his voice trembling slightly. The waiter glanced at the menu on the wall. The cheapest dish cost $28. Jason felt his chest tighten at the boy's desperate expression. "What do you really want?" Jason asked, crouching to eye level. "It's for my mum. She's been in the hospital for 2 weeks, and today's her birthday. I thought, maybe—" Ethan trailed off, realizing he didn't have enough. Jason pretended to recount the coins and smiled. "It's exactly right, see? You'll get a delicious beef pot pie." The boy looked up, surprised, not understanding how the money had worked out. Jason slipped into the kitchen and, unseen, covered the difference with his own money. He asked the cook to make the dish extra special and pack it with care. When Ethan received the neatly wrapped food, his eyes lit up. He mumbled a barely audible thank you and dashed out of the restaurant, leaving Jason puzzled by his hurry. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It helps us newcomers a lot. Now, back to the story. At the hospital, Ethan found his mother, Karen, lying in a shared room with 3 other patients. She was thinner than when she'd arrived, and her eyes had lost some of the sparkle he remembered from childhood. "Sweetheart, where did you get this?" Karen asked, eyeing the packaging from the city's most famous restaurant. "I bought it with the money I saved from recycling cans, Mum. It's your birthday." Karen hugged her son tightly, but her tears weren't just from joy. She knew the treatment she needed cost far more than they had, and the doctor had spoken to her that very day about being discharged for lack of funds. "Ethan, listen carefully," she said, cupping his face in her hands. "You can't spend your savings like this anymore. The doctor said I have to leave tomorrow because we can't pay." The boy felt his world crumbling. He didn't fully understand money or hospitals, but he knew his mom was still sick. "But Mom, you're not better yet." "I know, sweetheart, but sometimes life is just like that." From the hallway, Jason had overheard part of the conversation. He'd followed the boy out of curiosity, wanting to understand the situation better. Something about the scene moved him deeply, reminding him of his own childhood struggles. The next morning, Ethan showed up at the restaurant with a crumpled paper in hand. Jason was setting up tables when he saw the boy hesitating at the door. "Can I come in?" Ethan asked. "Of course you can." The boy approached and handed the paper to Jason. "I know you helped me yesterday. The dish cost more, didn't it? I wrote down a list of things I can do to pay you back." Jason read the note. In childish handwriting it said, "Sweep floors, wash dishes, clean sidewalk, take out trash." In the end, Ethan had drawn a small heart. Before Jason could respond, a gruff voice echoed through the restaurant. "What kind of nonsense is this?" shouted Harold, the manager. He was a 65-year-old man with graying hair always combed to the side and a permanently bitter expression on his face. "I don't tolerate beggars in my establishment." "Mr. Harold, he's not begging. He wants to work to pay off a debt," Jason explained. "Work? This kid doesn't even have the strength to carry a tray. Get him out of here before the customers see this mess." Ethan hung his head, feeling humiliated. Jason stepped between the boy and the manager. "What if he helps after closing? Just to tidy up a few things. He won't bother anyone." Harold sighed irritably, but agreed just to end the awkward situation. "Fine, but if there's any trouble, it's on you, Jason." And so began Ethan's routine at the restaurant. Every night after closing, he'd go there to help arrange chairs, wipe tables, and sweep the floor. Jason tried to talk to him, but the boy stayed silent, focused only on work. During the first week, Ethan refused any kindness. When Jason offered a glass of water, he said he wasn't thirsty. When he suggested a snack, Ethan replied he'd already eaten at home. One rainy Thursday, Jason arrived early at the restaurant and found Ethan passed out in the bathroom. The boy was pale and trembling slightly. Jason carried him to a chair and brought water and a buttered roll. "Ethan, when was the last time you ate anything?" The boy opened his eyes slowly and tried to sit up. "I ate this morning at school." "Ethan, what time is it now?" "I don't know. Around 7 at night." "And you haven't eaten anything since morning?" The boy hesitated before answering. "I save the food for my mum. She needs it more than I do." "Where's your mum now?" "At Mrs. Jenkins's house, our neighbor. She let my mum stay there while we don't have money to go back to the hospital." Jason's heart clenched. He made Ethan eat the roll and packed a meal for him to take home. "Listen, Ethan. From now on, when you come to work here, you eat dinner first. That's a new rule, understand?" "But I can't take food for free." "It's not free. It's part of your pay for the work." From that night on, Ethan began to open up a little. He shared that his mom had worked as a housekeeper until she got sick, and that they lived in a tiny room at the back of Mrs. Jenkins's house, a 70-year-old woman who helped them however she could. Jason started packing extra meals, claiming they were leftovers from customers who barely touched their food. Ethan took them home, relieved he could feed his mom without lying about where the food came from. Harold, watching from a distance, grew suspicious of the extra leftovers. One night, he confronted Jason. "You think I'm stupid, kid? Those leftovers you're giving that boy are coming out of your pocket, aren't they?" "Mr. Harold, don't lie to me. I see you writing down orders and paying with your own money." Ethan, who was sweeping nearby, overheard and stepped closer. "It's true, Mr. Harold. He pays for the food I take home. I lied to him saying it was leftovers because I was ashamed to accept help." Harold turned red with anger. "So you've both been lying to me? Jason, you're fired. And you, kid, I don't want to see you around here anymore." "Please, Mr. Harold," Ethan begged. "It was my fault. Jason was just trying to help me." "I said it's decided. Both of you get out of my sight." Jason took off the apron and handed it to Harold. Ethan started crying, feeling like he had ruined everything. "I'm sorry, Jason. I'm sorry for everything. It wasn't your fault, Ethan. Sometimes things just happen." Jason walked Ethan to Mrs. Jenkins's house. It was a simple 2-story home in a working-class neighborhood of Chicago. In the small back room, Karen was lying on a narrow bed, still visibly weak. "Mom, this is Jason, the one I told you about." Karen tried to sit up to greet Jason, but he asked her to stay lying down. "Nice to meet you, Karen. Ethan has told me a lot about you. He's told me about your kindness, too. I don't know how to thank you for everything you've done for us." Karen studied Jason's face carefully. There was something familiar about his features, something that stirred old memories. "Can I ask you a strange question? What's your last name?" "Wilson. Jason Wilson." Karen's face turned pale. She asked to speak to Jason privately. Ethan left the room, confused about what was happening. "Jason, 15 years ago, I worked for a family named Wilson in Beverly Hills. I was their housekeeper." Jason felt a chill run down his spine. "What was your employer's name?" "Richard Wilson, a businessman in construction. He had a wife named Victoria and an adopted son, a blonde boy who must have been about 16 at the time." Jason's world seemed to spin. Richard Wilson was his adoptive father. He had been raised by Richard and Victoria after his biological parents died in an accident when he was 12. "Karen, why did you leave there?" "I was fired. The mistress said I was stealing food, but it wasn't true. I was pregnant at the time and sometimes I felt sick. She thought I was faking it to work less." "Pregnant with whose child?" Karen hesitated for a long moment. "Your father's, Jason. Richard and we had a relationship. He promised he would leave his wife, but when I got pregnant, he panicked. Victoria found out and fired me on the spot." Jason's legs felt weak. Ethan was his half-brother. "Did you tell him about the pregnancy?" "I tried, but he wouldn't listen. Said I was lying to get money from him." "And does Ethan know?" "I never told him who his father is." What difference would it make? Richard never looked for us, never cared if the baby was born. Jason left the room completely shaken. He looked at Ethan, who was sitting in Mrs. Jenkins' small living room, and saw familiar features he hadn't noticed before. The shape of his eyes, the line of his jaw. "Ethan, I have to go now, but I'll come back tomorrow, okay?" "You don't have to come back, Jason. You've already done so much for us." "I will come back. That's a promise." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. That night, Jason couldn't sleep. He lived in a small apartment downtown Chicago, which he shared with a co-worker. He spent hours staring at the ceiling, thinking about how to tell his father everything. The next morning, he took a bus to Beverly Hills. Richard Wilson's house was imposing, with a well-kept garden and a 3-car garage. Jason had only visited a few times since he'd left home at 18 to make his own way. Richard was having coffee in the garden when Jason arrived. He was a 62-year-old man with completely white hair, always well-dressed even at home. "Jason, what a surprise. What brings you here so early?" "Dad, I need to talk to you about something very serious." Richard noticed the gravity in his son's tone and dismissed the maid serving coffee. "Go ahead, son. What's wrong?" "Do you remember a maid who worked here 15 years ago? Karen." Richard's expression changed immediately. "Why are you asking about her?" "Because I found her, Dad. And I met her son, too." "What son?" "Your son, Dad. Ethan. He's 11. Richard stayed silent for several minutes. Jason could see the internal struggle on the face of the man who had raised him. "How did you find them?" Jason told the whole story, from the first meeting at the restaurant to the conversation the night before. Richard listened silently, his head lowered. "Dad, they're struggling. Karen is sick and has no money for treatment. Ethan is going hungry to feed his mother." "Jason, you don't understand the situation. Back then I was having problems in my marriage. Victoria was suspicious of everything." "Dad, that was 15 years ago. You have a son you don't know who needs help. If I acknowledge that boy now, it'll destroy my family. Victoria will want a divorce. She'll take half of everything. And that's more important than a child's life?" Richard stood up and began pacing the garden. "It's not that simple, Jason. I built all this over decades. The company, this house, our social standing." "Dad, Ethan isn't asking for any of that. He just needs food and medical care for his mother. And you think that's all? If I help, they'll want more. They'll want recognition, inheritance." Jason was disappointed by his father's reaction. "You don't know them, Dad. Karen had 15 years to ask for something and never came forward. Ethan works like an adult to help his mother, even though he's just a child." "I need to think, Jason. This isn't a decision to make overnight." While you think, they keep suffering. Jason left his parents' house more shaken than when he arrived. He had hoped for a better reaction from Richard, but found a man haunted by his own fears and cowardice. Meanwhile, Ethan had gotten a job selling water at the traffic lights on Michigan Avenue. Mrs. Jenkins had lent him a small cooler, and the boy went out every morning with 24 bottles. On a particularly hot afternoon, Ethan was at the corner traffic light by State Street when he saw an imported car stop at the signal. The driver seemed to be in distress, clutching his chest and breathing heavily. Ethan approached the window and tapped on the glass. "Sir, are you okay?" It was Harold. He rolled down the window, clearly panicked. "Boy, I think... my heart." Ethan didn't hesitate. He opened the cooler, grabbed a bottle of ice-cold water and handed it to Harold. "Drink a little, sir." Slowly. "Ethan, is that really you?" "Hi, Mr. Harold. You recognized me?" Harold drank the water and gradually calmed down. The light had already turned green, but he stayed put, with cars honking behind him. "Why are you helping me, boy, after the way I treated you?" "Because you needed help, that's all." "Get in the car. I'll take you to the hospital." "You don't have to, Mr. Harold. You're better now." "Not for me, for you. I want to take you to see your mother." Ethan was confused but agreed. At the hospital, Harold paid for a private consultation for Karen and offered to cover the cost of her medication. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan asked. "Because you taught me something today, boy. You taught me kindness has no price." Harold shared that he had lost a son Ethan's age many years ago and had since become bitter and closed off. "When you helped me today, even after all I did, you reminded me of who I used to be. You had a son?" "I did. His name was Ethan, just like you. He was gone when he was 12 from leukemia." Ethan didn't know what to say for the first time he saw Mr. Harold cry. "Mr. Harold, I'm sure your son would be proud to see you helping others." That afternoon, Mr. Harold offered Jason his job back and proposed a program where underprivileged children could work a few hours at the restaurant in exchange for meals and help with their studies. Ethan would be the first to benefit. When Jason heard about Mr. Harold's change of heart, he agreed to return to work, but on one condition. Ethan couldn't know about their family ties until the whole situation was resolved. In the following weeks, Karen began showing signs of improvement with the proper treatment. The doctors said she'd need surgery, but there was a chance for a full recovery if everything went well. The problem was the cost. Even with Mr. Harold's help, the surgery cost far more than they could gather. Jason sold his car, his computer, and everything of value he owned, but they were still short a considerable amount. He organized a fundraiser at the restaurant, asking customers for donations without revealing that Ethan was his brother. Ethan found out about the fundraiser and felt torn. On one hand, he was grateful for the effort. On the other, he felt like he was being treated as a charity case. "Jason, I don't want people feeling sorry for me and my mum." "It's not pity, Ethan. It's solidarity. People are helping because they want to see you both okay. But I feel bad taking money without giving anything in return." "You've already given so much, Ethan. You've taught everyone here about courage, about dignity, about not giving up even when everything seems lost." Meanwhile, Richard Wilson had hired a private investigator to discreetly look into Karen and Ethan's situation. The report confirmed everything Jason had said. They were truly struggling. Karen was sick, and Ethan worked to help his family. The investigator also discovered that Karen had never sought out Richard all these years, nor tried to extort or blackmail him. She had simply raised their son alone, never mentioning who his real father was. This information shook Richard deeply. He realized he had judged Karen unfairly, projecting his own fears and prejudices onto her. One evening, Richard showed up at Mrs. Jenkins' house. Karen was doing better but was still frail. When she saw Richard at the door, her face paled. "Richard, what are you doing here?" "I came to talk to you, Karen, and to meet my son." Ethan was in his room doing homework. Mrs. Jenkins called him to the living room. "Ethan, there's someone here to see you both." The boy walked in and saw a well-dressed man with white hair watching him intently. "Ethan, this is your father," Karen said, her voice trembling. Ethan looked from Karen to Richard, not fully understanding what was happening. "My father, but I thought—" "I know, sweetheart. I never told you about him because I thought it was for the best." Richard stepped closer to Ethan slowly. "Hi, Ethan. I know this is very confusing for you. Why did you never show up before?" Ethan's simple, direct question hit Richard like a punch to the gut. "Because I was a coward, Ethan. Because I was scared and took the easy way out." "Did my mom get sick because you didn't help her?" Richard couldn't answer. Karen stepped in. "Ethan, your father didn't know I was sick. It wasn't his fault." "No, Karen," Richard said, "it was my fault. If I'd taken responsibility from the start, you never would have gone through this." Richard knelt to meet Ethan's eye level. "I'm here now to take responsibility. I want to acknowledge you as my son and make sure you and your mother have everything you need." "I don't want your money," said Ethan, with a firmness that surprised everyone. "I just wanted to have a father who loved me." "I do love you, Ethan. I loved you even before I really knew you." "What do you mean?" Richard realized the time had come to tell the whole truth. "Ethan, do you know Jason from the restaurant?" "I do. He's my friend." "He's your brother, half-brother, on your father's side. I raised Jason after his parents passed away, and it was through him that I found out about you." Ethan was in shock. Everything started making sense. The instant connection he'd felt with Jason, his kindness, the way he protected him. Did Jason know I was his brother? He did. But he wanted to handle the situation carefully without hurting you. Ethan began to cry. Not from sadness, but from a mix of relief, confusion, and anger. Why didn't anyone tell me the truth? Why did everyone keep lying to me? Because we wanted to protect you, my son, said Karen. Protect me from what? The truth? Ethan ran out of the house. Richard tried to follow him, but Karen asked him to let the boy process everything on his own. He'll come back. Ethan is strong, but he needs time. Jason got a call from Karen explaining what had happened. He immediately went out to look for Ethan, trying to guess where the boy might have gone. He found Ethan at the restaurant, sitting at the corner table where it had all started. The boy was crying silently. Ethan, can I sit here with you? Ethan nodded without looking at Jason. Are you mad at me? I don't know what I'm feeling. I'm confused. I should have told you from the beginning. Why didn't you? Jason took a deep breath. Because I was scared, Ethan. Scared you'd feel used. Scared you'd think I was only nice to you out of obligation. And weren't you? No, Ethan. From the very first day I liked you. Not because you're my brother, but because you're an amazing person. Ethan finally looked at Jason. Is it true our father never wanted anything to do with me? It's true that it took him a long time to find the courage to do the right thing, but he does want to know you now. What if he changes his mind again? He won't. I've known him for a long time, Ethan. When he makes a decision like this, he sticks to it. Jason, I'm scared. Scared of what? Scared of loving him, and him abandoning me again. Scared of you all finding out I'm not as great as you think I am. Jason hugged Ethan. Ethan, you're the bravest person I know. You took care of your mother, worked like an adult, never gave up even when things were tough. Any father would be proud to have a son like you. Even if I'm poor? Being poor doesn't make you less, Ethan. What matters is a person's character, and you have the best character I've ever seen. The two talked at the restaurant late into the night. Harold arrived to close up and found them still there. Family trouble? Asked the manager. Something like that, Jason replied. Want to talk about it? Ethan told Harold everything, and the manager listened quietly. When the boy finished, Harold shook his head. Ethan, you want to know what I think? I do. I think you hit the jackpot. You have a mother who loves you more than anything in the world, a brother who'd give his life for you, and a father trying to make up for past mistakes. A lot of people out there don't even have a third of that luck. But why do I feel so scared? Because having a real family is scary. When you have nothing, there's nothing to lose. When you have people you love, you're afraid of losing them. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, Ethan returned home much calmer. Karen was in the kitchen preparing tea when he arrived. Mom, I want to talk to him again. Talk to who, sweetheart? To my dad. Karen called Richard, who arrived in less than an hour. This time, the conversation was much smoother. Ethan, I know you have a lot of questions, Richard said. I do. Why did you never look for us? At first, because I thought your mom was lying about the pregnancy. Later, because I was ashamed of what I'd done. And as the years passed, it became harder and harder to admit I was wrong. Do you regret it? Every single day for the last 15 years, Ethan. Not a day goes by that I don't think about how things could have been different. So what happens now? Now, I want to be the father I should have been from the start. If you'll let me. Ethan thought for a long moment. I want to get to know you better, but I don't want anything to change between me and my mom. She's always been both mom and dad to me. Nothing will change, Ethan. Your mom will always be the most important person in your life. I just want to be part of your family, not replace her. What about Jason? Jason has always been my son, even if not by blood. Now both of you are my sons. In the weeks that followed, a new routine took shape. Richard visited Ethan and Karen every day. He paid for Karen's surgery, which was a complete success. He also enrolled Ethan in a private school near Mrs. Jenkins's house. At the restaurant, Ethan kept working a few hours a day, now as part of Harold's official program. He helped with simple tasks and in return got meals and support with his studies. Jason and Ethan developed a real brotherly bond. Ethan would go to Jason's apartment on weekends, and they'd either play soccer in the park or catch a movie at the theater. But not everything was settled. Victoria, Richard's wife, found out about Ethan after overhearing a phone call by chance. "Richard, we need to talk," she said, a 58-year-old woman with always impeccable blonde hair and a proud posture. "About what, Victoria?" "About your bastard son." Richard tensed up. "How did you find out?" "I heard you talking to Jason. Richard, have you lost your mind?" "Lost? Acknowledging that boy now will ruin our reputation." "Our reputation? Victoria, we're talking about a child, my son. A child who could destroy everything we've built. The business partners, our friends, our social standing. Have you even thought about that?" "I have, and I decided it doesn't matter." "Well, it should. Because if you make this official, I'll file for divorce and take half of everything you own. Do what you want, Victoria. I'm not abandoning my son again." Victoria's threat created tension in the house. Richard knew she was capable of following through, and that meant not just the end of their marriage, but also a financial split that could hurt his business. Jason noticed the change in his father's behavior and decided to talk to him. "Dad, is something wrong?" Victoria found out about Ethan. How did she take it? "As badly as possible. She's threatening to bankrupt me if I officially acknowledge Ethan. So what are you going to do?" "I'm going to do it anyway. I made one mistake already. I won't make it again." "Dad, maybe there's a solution that doesn't hurt anyone." "What kind of solution?" "Ethan doesn't need public recognition. He needs a family, support, love. You can do that without causing a scandal." "But he has a right to my name, to the inheritance." "He has the right, but maybe that's not what he wants most right now." Jason talked to Ethan about the situation. The boy, with the early wisdom his difficult life had given him, surprised everyone with his response. "Jason, I don't need everyone to know he's my father. I just need him to know, and for you all to know. But Ethan, you have rights. I have everything I've ever wanted, a family that loves me. The rest doesn't matter that much." "Are you sure?" "I am. I grew up without a father's name on my birth certificate, and that never made me less of a person. What matters is that now I know he exists and that he cares about me." Ethan's maturity moved everyone. Karen was proud of her son's wisdom, and Richard became even more convinced he'd made the right decision by acknowledging his paternity. Victoria, seeing her threats had no effect, changed her strategy. She went to Karen directly. "Karen, we need to talk." Karen received Victoria in Mrs. Jenkins's small living room. The two women faced each other after 15 years. "Victoria, after all this time, I came to propose an agreement." "What kind of agreement?" "Richard will give you a sum of money for you and your son to leave Chicago. You can start over in another city, far from here." "And why would I do that?" "Because it's best for everyone. Your son will grow up away from judgmental eyes. You'll have enough money to live well, and my family won't be destroyed." "Your family, Victoria? Richard is Ethan's father, whether you accept it or not." "Richard already has a family. He has a son he raised with love for years. You're just a consequence of a past mistake." Karen stood up from her chair. "Victoria, I don't want your money. I never wanted anything from Richard except for him to take responsibility for his son. If he wants to be part of Ethan's life, that's his right. If he doesn't, that's his choice, but you don't get to decide." "You'll regret this decision, Karen." "Maybe, but at least I'll sleep with a clear conscience." Victoria left Mrs. Jenkins' house furious. She had underestimated Karen's dignity and the strength of character of the family that had formed. In the following months, the tension at home grew. Victoria made sure to create awkward situations whenever Richard mentioned Ethan. She cancelled social engagements, refused to attend company events, and made sharp comments about certain family situations. Richard endured it all in silence, but Jason noticed his father was suffering. "Dad, you can't keep living like this." I'll figure it out, Jason. I just need a little more time. Ethan's noticed something's wrong. He thinks he's causing problems for you. He's not causing any problems. The problems were there before he came along. Jason was right about Ethan. The boy had noticed the change in Richard's behavior and started pulling away. Jason, I think our dad regrets meeting me, Ethan said one afternoon at the restaurant. Why do you think that? He always seems worried when he's with me, keeps checking his phone like he's in a hurry to leave. Ethan, he doesn't regret it. He's dealing with some problems, but they have nothing to do with you. What kind of problems? Jason hesitated, but decided to tell the truth. His wife didn't take the news about you well. She's making his life very difficult. So I'm disrupting his family. No, Ethan, you are part of his family. The one causing trouble is her. Ethan was thoughtful for a long time. Jason, I want to talk to her. To who? To our father's wife. Ethan, that's not a good idea. Why not? Maybe if she meets me, she'll change her mind about me. Or maybe she'll be even crueler to you. I'm not afraid of her, Jason. I've been through worse in my life. Against Jason's protests, Ethan asked Richard to take him to the house in Beverly Hills. Richard hesitated, but eventually agreed. Victoria didn't expect to find Ethan in her living room. She descended the elegant staircase with a look of surprise and irritation. Richard, what is the meaning of this? Victoria, this is Ethan. He wanted to meet you. Ethan rose from the couch and extended his hand to Victoria. It's a pleasure, Mrs. Victoria. My name is Ethan. Victoria looked at the boy's outstretched hand but didn't shake it. I know who you are. I came here because I wanted to talk to you. Talk about what? About Mr. Richard. I noticed you don't like me very much, and I wanted to explain that I'm not here to cause any trouble. Victoria was surprised by the maturity in Ethan's words. It's not that I dislike you, boy. It's just that your presence here complicates things. I understand. You're afraid I want to take something that's yours. And don't you? No, ma'am. I just wanted to have a father. But if that's hurting his family, I can stay away. Ethan's simplicity and honesty disarmed Victoria. She had expected to meet a greedy or manipulative child, but instead found a mature and selfless boy. Sit here, Ethan, she said, pointing to an armchair. Richard tensed, fearing what Victoria might say. Ethan, I'll be honest with you, when I found out you existed, I was terrified. Terrified of me. Terrified of what your presence could mean for my life. I thought you'd want money, that you'd want to live here, that you'd want to take Jason's place. I never wanted any of that, Mrs. Victoria. I just wanted to meet my father and know he doesn't hate me. And now that you've met him? Now I know he's a good person, and so are you. You were just scared. Victoria felt a pang in her heart. It had been a long time since she'd met someone so pure and without ulterior motives. Ethan, can I ask you something? Of course. What do you want most in life? Ethan thought for a moment. I want my mother to be well forever. I want to keep studying so I can have a good job when I grow up, and I want my family to be happy. Your family? My mother, Jason, our father, and you too, if you'd like. Victoria's eyes filled with tears. For months, she had seen Ethan as a threat, yet here he was, including her in his definition of family. Why would you include me in your family? Because you're important to Mr. Richard, and if you're important to him, then you're important to me too. At that moment, Victoria realized she had been unfair. Ethan wasn't a threat to her family. He was a precious addition to it. Ethan, I owe you an apology. Why, Mrs. Victoria? Because I judged you without knowing you, because I let fear speak louder than reason. You don't need to apologize. I understand why you were afraid. Richard watched the conversation in silence, moved by Ethan's maturity and surprised by Victoria's change of heart. Richard, Victoria said, turning to her husband, I think we should formalize Ethan's recognition. Victoria, are you sure? I am. This boy is your son, and anyone who looks at him can see he's a blessing, not a problem. Ethan was stunned. Mrs. Victoria, you don't have to do this for me. I already said it doesn't matter if it's official or not. It does matter, Ethan. You have the right to your father's name, to your inheritance, to your place in this family. But what about your friends? Society? True friends will accept you, and those who don't aren't worthy of being our friends anyway. That afternoon, Richard called his lawyer and began the paternity recognition process. Ethan would officially be a Wilson. Karen was moved when she heard the news. "My son, you've achieved what I never could, touching people's hearts with your kindness. Mom, you're the one who taught me to be this way." "No, Ethan, that comes from within you. It's who you are." At the restaurant, Harold organized a surprise party to celebrate Ethan's official recognition. All the staff participated, and some regular customers joined the celebration too. "Ethan," Harold said during the party, "do you want to know the difference between you and most people?" "What is it, Harold?" "Most people want to change others. You change people just by being yourself." Ethan was flustered by the compliment, but smiled shyly. During the party, a special surprise was being prepared. Karen, who had fully recovered from her surgery, arrived at the restaurant with Jason. "Ethan, your mom has some news to share," Jason said. "What news, Mom?" "I got a job, son. I'll be working in the administrative department at your father's company." Ethan hugged his mother tightly. "Mom, that's wonderful. And there's more. We're moving out of Mrs. Jenkins' place and into our own apartment. But Mrs. Jenkins will always be family, Ethan. But now we'll have our own home." Richard approached Ethan. "Ethan, I wanted to show you something." He handed the boy a document. "What is this, Dad?" "It's the deed to the apartment where you and your mom will live. It's in her name, but when you turn 18, it'll be transferred to you too." Ethan looked at the document without fully understanding, but knew it was something important. "Dad, this must have cost a lot of money." "Ethan, money is just paper. What matters is that you have a home where you feel safe and happy." "But what if one day you get mad at me and want to take the apartment away?" Richard knelt in front of Ethan. "Ethan, listen to me carefully. I might get mad at you for some mischief. I might disagree with choices you make. I might even scold you when you deserve it. But I will never, ever abandon you again. You're my son forever, no matter what happens." "Really, forever?" "Forever." Ethan hugged Richard with all his strength. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, son." The party lasted all night. Jason and Ethan played video games on their phones. Karen chatted with Victoria about family recipes. Richard helped Harold organize the kitchen. They were a family unlike any other, formed not just by blood, but by choice, forgiveness, and unconditional love. Months later, Ethan was doing well at his new school. He was part of the soccer team and had made many friends. Jason picked him up twice a week, and they had established a tradition of going to the movies every Saturday. Karen had excelled at work and received a promotion. She lived with Ethan in a 2-bedroom apartment in a middle-class neighborhood, but still visited Mrs. Jenkins every week. Richard and Victoria had found a new balance in their marriage. Surprisingly, Ethan's presence had brought them closer. Victoria discovered she had a knack for being a step-grandmother, and Ethan loved visiting them on weekends. Harold had expanded the restaurant's social program. Now, 5 children worked a few hours a day in exchange for meals and educational support. He often said Ethan had restored his faith in humanity. One Sunday afternoon, the whole family was gathered at Richard and Victoria's house for lunch. Ethan was in the yard playing ball with Jason when he suddenly stopped. "Jason, can I ask you something?" "Of course, Ethan." "Do you think things happen for a reason?" "What do you mean?" "I keep thinking, if I hadn't saved up those coins, if I hadn't gone to the restaurant that day, if you hadn't helped me, would we have never met?" Jason stopped playing ball and looked at Ethan. "Ethan, I believe some people are meant to meet. One way or another, we would have found each other." "Really? Really? Because true family always finds its way, no matter how long it takes." Ethan smiled and went back to playing ball. Later that evening, as everyone was saying goodbye, Ethan approached each family member. "Mom, thank you for never giving up on me." "Dad, thank you for having the courage to get to know me." "Victoria, thank you for welcoming me into the family." "Jason, thank you for being my guardian angel when I needed it most." Harold, thank you for teaching me that people can change. Mrs. Jenkins, thank you for taking care of us when we had no one else. Each of them hugged Ethan, knowing that boy had changed their lives in ways they never imagined possible. When he got home that night, Ethan was writing in a notebook he'd received as a birthday gift. "What are you doing, son?" asked Karen. "I'm writing the story of our family, Mom." "And how does it begin?" "It begins like this. Once upon a time, there was a boy who believed everyone has a guardian angel. One day he discovered that sometimes the guardian angel comes disguised as an older brother." Karen smiled and kissed her son's forehead. "And how does the story end?" "It doesn't end, Mom. It's only just beginning." The end of the story. And what did you think of Ethan and his family's story? Let us know in the comments which moment moved you the most and where you're watching from. Do you believe love can transform hearts like it did for Victoria and Harold? Your heartfelt words help us keep telling stories that touch the soul.